Hey everyone, welcome to Bite Your Tongue, the podcast. Join me, your host, Denise Gorant, as we explore the ins and outs of building healthy relationships with our adult children. Together, we'll speak with experts, share heartfelt stories, and get timely advice, addressing topics that matter most to you. Get ready to dive deep and learn to build and nurture deep connections with our adult children. And of course, when to bite our tongues. So let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bite Your Tongue, the podcast. I'm Denise, your host, and I just want to take a minute and thank all of you for being here to listen to today's episode. But first, there's a little housekeeping I want to take care of. First of all, a quick reminder that we're now on Substack. It's called Behind the Mic. It's here on Substack that each week I share some personal thoughts about the episode with humor, candor, and honesty. You can find us at substack.com/Bite Your Tongue Pod. I hope you'll take a minute and read Behind the Mic. Most people are finding it quite interesting. I'm getting a lot of great feedback. Also, I want to remind you to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. It really helps us grow the show. And one more thing. Because it does take cash to produce this podcast, we'd be ever so humbled if you would take a minute and support us. Visit our website at biteyourtonguepodcast.com. Click the Support Us tab. You can buy us a cup of coffee for as little as $5 or make a donation of any size via Venmo. It's all there and easy to navigate. Every little bit helps us keep afloat. And please know, we greatly appreciate it. Now, on to today's episode. If there's one life event that brings together love, joy, tradition, and usually a little family tension, it's a wedding. It's been over a year that we've done a wedding episode. Wedding planning is often the moment when expectations, money, tradition, and family roles all collide. Who gets a say? What happens when families contribute financially? And where exactly is the line between helpful guidance and really taking over? Our guest today, who I am so excited to have on, is perfectly suited to help us sort through all of that. We are so honored and thrilled to welcome Lizzie Post, the great-great-granddaughter of Emily Post. She's the co-president of the Emily Post Institute and also co-host of the Awesome Etiquette podcast, of which I am a huge fan and listen to all the time. She's authored several etiquette books, including Emily Post Etiquette, the Centennial Edition, and Emily Post Business Etiquette. The one she's working on right now is the one we're going to talk about the most, the upcoming, I think she says, fall launch of the Emily Post Wedding Etiquette book. Lizzie brings a modern perspective to etiquette, one that focuses less on rigid rules and more on consideration, respect, and honesty. Just makes you wonder, what would great-great-grandmother Emily Post be thinking right now? So today we're talking about weddings through the lens of parents and their adult children. How can families navigate expectations, finances, traditions, and the not so occasional awkward moment with grace? She's also going to answer a lot of listener questions and share some tough questions she's tackled. So welcome, Lizzie. You have no idea how excited I am to have you with us today. Thanks for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here on Bite Your Tongue. First of all, I love the name of your podcast.
Isn't that a great name?
Like, it is such a great name.
When I started the podcast, I was trying to think of all these names, and I woke up one night and thought, bite your tongue. In fact, I'm going to share a story. I saw a friend the other day, and she had gone to visit her teenage grandchildren. And when she came back, her husband said, "How was it?" And she said, "Oh, it was great after my blood transfusion." He said, "Blood transfusion?" She said, "Yeah, for all the times I bit my tongue."
Isn't that the truth of visiting family with kids, right?
Yeah, you just have to bite your tongue.
Yes,
all right,
do.
So before we get into the whole wedding thing, I want to hear a little about your legendary family when it comes to etiquette. Growing up, did etiquette actually play a big role? I mean, your mother was the great-granddaughter of Emily Post. No,
No, my father was the great-grandson.
That's right,
You got it.
Right. Was it strict rules in your house? Was etiquette really nuanced, or did you focus on it?
I grew up in the country in Vermont, next to a dairy farm, not on one. We were very casual, but I will say, I think my parents did a beautiful job of placing the emphasis on manners where it was important and letting us run wild, be free, and be who we are the rest of the time. So at the table, my mom would do fun things like She would tell us stories of when she was at summer camp and the counselors would teach them to put their napkins in their laps. They had to do it before they started eating. And they would say, sink your sails, because the napkin was shaped like a triangle, folded like a triangle.
Oh,
So she
right.
would make it cute. And she would also do things like lower the lights and light the candles, partly so we wouldn't complain about what we would see on our plates, but also to set an atmosphere. And she would get kind of funny, like jokey funny, with doing things like saying, if we had to get up to use the restroom or if we just wanted to excuse ourselves, she would say, now don't forget to say, may I rise from the table? She would make a game out of it.
Right.
We learned the manner and we had fun with it. So
Yeah, she
that was
sounds
good.
like a wonderful, wonderful woman.
I
Really.
lucked out in the parent department. I just don't know how I could have landed better
Are
parents.
they both with you still?
They are. I am very lucky. They are both with me still. We are all very close. I got to work with them both for a number of years. I'm going to start to cry if we talk more about it. I love my
Okay.
parents so much.
Well, it's wonderful to hear that, especially what's going on in the world today with all this estrangement and no contact
It's
and
hard.
what the heck is going on. So I think it's that rural Vermont upbringing
I
that
think it might be.
anyway. All right, I want to talk about the word etiquette
Yes.
because in many ways it's gone by the wayside. I mean, the way the
Mm.
world is now, no one's paying too much attention to etiquette and people think of it as old-fashioned rules. Yet when I listen to your podcast, Awesome Etiquette, it's not old-fashioned rules. You tell us what's changed and what is etiquette now?
I would say that the funny thing about that idea that we had more etiquette in years gone by than we do now is it's something every generation feels. We look nostalgically back on the past. We forget that the past had rudeness too. I do think that right now there's a particular problem with parents struggling to know how to teach their children manners and etiquette. I think the word itself comes in and out of fashion, whether it's manners, whether it's civility, whether it's politeness, whether it's etiquette. I've heard them all used positively and negatively. In fact, we did a brand study about 30 years ago where the people conducting the study said, well, this has never happened before. Your main word associated with your brand, the word etiquette, gets a completely positive and a completely negative view from your audience based on how they're interacting with the word. When it's something being imposed on them and makes their life more complicated and frustrating or makes them feel inadequate, it's negative. When it's something that they want in life, they want respect, they want consideration, they want honesty in their interactions, that becomes something positive. That's good etiquette. I love good etiquette. I hate bad etiquette. And so it's a very polarizing word, but we always do a word association at the start of our business etiquette seminars where we work with the audience to break down that word. We say, what does it mean to you? And you get everything from it makes me think of my mother. It means politeness. It means manners. It means thank you notes and how to do table manners right, all the way to elitism, royalty, secret societies. You get everything. The best answer we ever got, C3PO from Star Wars. I'm an etiquette and protocol droid.
Oh my God, that
That
is
was the funniest
hysterical.
answer I've ever heard.
Yeah, that
So,
is hysterical.
but once you break it down and you understand that the person who's talking about it to you isn't talking about it because they're pompous, arrogant, and a jerk, they're talking about it because it's a way to understand your behavior with other people, what's expected
Hmm.
of you, what's expected of them, and how we navigate the space in between when those expectations aren't meeting up. I think that's what we really explore on Awesome Etiquette all the time, are those places where you don't think about it. How do I deal with the fact that, no, I don't want to give someone my hand-me-downs? How do I deal with a guest who's asking me about this at my house? I'm the host. I'm feeling uncomfortable with that, but they're my guest. I want to be kind to them and make them comfortable. How do we balance all the interactions that we have in a day so that we feel good about them, so that we're growing relationships?
I absolutely agree. I look at it as how I'm interacting with society. I think of it as kindness, and we need
Yeah.
more kindness in the world. When you think about your actions, that means you're thinking about how you're acting towards others, and that's all about kindness. Okay,
Mhm.
we've got to get into weddings.
Okay.
So, weddings seem to be one of the places where there are tons of etiquette questions and family tensions. Why do you think weddings bring out such strong emotions in people?
Oh, it's a big life milestone. And the fact that you're committing to someone else for life, and for the most part, even if you're throwing a small wedding, you're often throwing it having spent some cash on it to some degree. The least expensive wedding I ever attended was one I officiated during COVID, and we were all in jeans, and it was just the couple, their kids, and me on a teeny tiny little island. And by island, I mean like an extension of their front lawn that happened to be in a lake. They wanted that kind of a wedding. That is the only one I've ever found that was truly inexpensive. Everything else, there's cost that's gone into it. There's a legal commitment that is happening that can make people absolutely freak out, even if they know they want it. There are pressures around what you thought you envisioned for this day versus how it's coming out versus what your partner wants versus what your family wants. There's a lot going into the mix. We have a family friend who said, boy, weddings are an equal opportunity to offend everyone.
It's so hard, particularly for the
Yeah.
parents, because traditionally it used to be the wedding was in many ways for the parents. The parents
Yes.
invited their work people, their neighbors, and the couple went along
Yeah.
for the ride. They may have invited a few friends. You went to the wedding, you didn't know half the people there.
Yeah.
Now, the young adults getting married are taking much bigger of a role. However,
Yeah.
it isn't changing so much about who's paying.
Yeah. Well, a little bit it is. I would say that there's two things happening. One, you're absolutely right. You have hit the nail on the head that the couple is much more in the driver's seat over the wedding itself. It's less of a gift to them by their parents or the generation above them, which would incorporate a lot more family friends as opposed to just the couple's friends. But it is much more that the couple, and especially brides today, want to be in that driver's seat, making decisions, putting things together, making their vision happen. We're seeing two things. One, we're seeing a lot more collaboration in general on who pays for a wedding. The couple coming up with some of the money if they are old enough and have had enough life experience to have accumulated some. And then both sets of parents, or maybe even grandparents or some aunts and uncles or a special godparent who was really involved in someone's life, offering to contribute. And I think while in some ways that makes it a little messier because there aren't these clear-cut lines, in so many ways it is so much better. We are not putting all the onus on the bride's family. We aren't making up what I think of as silly rules that the bride can't pay for the honeymoon or that the groom absolutely can't pay for any of the bride's wardrobe. I mean, those are just ridiculous dated things that we don't need anymore. You mentioned that we are going to have an upcoming version, a new fully rewritten, completely from scratch version of our Emily Post wedding etiquette book. And that book's coming out at the start of the fall of 2026. We scrapped the list of traditional division of costs. We have put it in an extended portion on a private section of our website because it's just so not done. I spoke with 38 couples to interview for this book, and most of them had been married within the last decade. None of them actually, excuse me, one of them fell under that traditional division of costs. The dad was adamant that he had always dreamed of paying for his daughter's wedding and he wanted to pay for the whole thing with all the traditional old school elements. That's the only one. It's outdated advice at this point.
And the young adults went along with that because many
Absolutely.
times that's where it comes in. What's the control? So the dad pays for all that. Does he then have control over what goes on at that wedding?
It really depends. I think you were about to ask, how do you manage that?
Yeah, when you have all these people contributing, then you have more people giving advice. We did a wedding episode maybe a couple years ago.
Yeah.
She said the greatest gift you can do is give the money and shut up.
Boy, is she right. It's true. But the thing is, some people want to just say, this is what I can give you, spend it wisely. Other people say, I will give you this amount, but I want to directly pay the bills myself. Frankly, just making sure that it really goes to the things that are for the wedding.
Mm-hmm,
Other
mm-hmm.
people say, I really want to buy you a wedding dress, but no, I will not be okay putting my money towards a dress that's off the shoulder or that is a naked dress or a see-through dress, like styles that have come out that some people aren't as fond of. We talk about in our wedding advice that it's really important, if you do have stipulations or expectations for how your money is spent, that you say those up front, because it gives the couple the chance to then decline the offer and say, boy, that is so generous of you. It is so kind. Unfortunately, I think I really do want the thing that you wouldn't be okay with, so I shouldn't accept the money. Thank you so much for the offer, though.
You
And
say that so nicely, though. And I'm just going to say, most people would say, I'm not doing that. Keep your money.
yeah,
You
well,
have
we
such
try. We
a, right.
try.
You have such and that's where the tension comes in.
Yeah.
A listener said their son getting married to a woman, and the woman's family didn't have as much money, so they were putting quite a bit of money in, and then the woman's family put some money in but wouldn't say how much they were putting in, so no one knew where the money was going, and it became very tense between everybody. Money
Yeah.
is a real tension builder.
It is. And there's usually a lot of it being thrown at weddings, especially today with the wedding markups that are happening. It's something where we try really hard to address this from the perspective of great communication skills, patience, taking a breath, remembering that not everything hinges on this particular thing, or making sure that you put together what your priorities are for your wedding. Is it that dream dress that you've always wanted? Is it the food? Is it having a particular band there that really will make you, as my wonderful sister came up with the line, make you feel married? What's going to make you feel married? Put the most of your amount of your dollars towards those things when it comes to your wedding. Stick it out for those things when it comes to your wedding. Not everything can make you feel married. The napkins and the flowers and the DJ and the dress and the tux and the dog walking down the aisle, and that all can, you got to pick one or two. But I do think it's really important to think about your communication skills. One of the other things we teach couples, and frankly, everyone in the wedding industry, is the idea of PNRs, positive non-committal responses. And these are responses that allow you to take in ideas without committing to them, but being gracious for the fact that someone's trying to talk to you and be invested. You probably love that idea, but when there's 100 people in your life doing that, it's overwhelming. And the more that you can have language to turn to that you're comfortable with that says, oh, thank you so much for that idea, or thank you so much for that offer. Let me think about that. Let me talk to partner about that and get back to you. I think the more it gives couples a chance to breathe, make decisions that really allow them to focus on their priorities, and then come up with language to decline or to adjust or to ask if there's a different way we could handle something.
What language do you have for parents that are struggling with things? I
Same
mean,
works for everybody.
in all the years you've been doing this and your
Yeah.
family's been doing it, what do you think are some of the greatest changes you're seeing in the wedding industry, weddings in general, parents' roles as well as the couples' roles?
I think we talked about the first one, which is that couples are in the driver's seat now, and that just
Okay.
didn't used to. I mean, my mother, she didn't even pick her own wedding dress. I remember when she found it in my grandfather's attic, and she just looked at it like, huh, there's that thing. And I was like, Mom, it's your wedding dress. She goes, yeah, and I didn't choose it. I had no desire to wear it.
Sometimes I think there's almost too much emphasis on the wedding. Like these young adults have to be in so much in the driver's seat and less emphasis on the marriage. I didn't care that my parents took over. It really made them happy. I was so happy that they were happy. I had a
Yeah.
few stipulations. Why is it suddenly so important?
I don't think it's now that it's suddenly so important. I think that there's a lot of difference between how we get to this stage in life. There's a much longer period of being independent, having formed
Mm,
your own life, having even formed your own finances.
mhm.
Whereas, and I don't know how old you were when you got married. My mom was 23. She got married the day of her college graduation. She had been living with my father, but not for very long. This was really them embarking on independent life, and it kind of acted as a like a send off into this new stage of life. A lot of couples today are getting married after they've lived that stage, sometimes with multiple other people before they met this person that they're doing it with. And it doesn't feel so much as a send off as something that the parents are, in fact, contributing to rather than being the directors of. I will say, though, that much the way you just described it was the party that was given for me. I had one couple who had gotten married, I think in the early 80s, who I interviewed for the book research. And she said, I know everyone wants to be in the driver's seat, but my wedding really felt like a gift to me from my family. And that
Mm.
made me love everything that they chose. And I didn't have to worry about a single bit of it. I just showed up and then was the honoree and everything. And I thought that was a really beautiful take on it. I don't think a lot of couples want that today. I also think we are absolutely inundated, especially if you participate on social media, with examples of weddings. And so while the average bride in the 60s, 70s, and 80s might have been to a few weddings, she probably wasn't peppered with imagery of it daily or signed up to listen to podcasts about it and to follow Instagram accounts and TikTok accounts about it. And our couples today dream so much more about this day than I think couples of earlier generations.
I think that's absolutely true. And I think social media does have a play in it. And as you told that story about the woman that thought it was the greatest gift to her, I
Yeah,
wonder sometimes if the tides will turn, because
could be.
really in those days, there wasn't that much stress. Whatever the parents wanted, that's what happened. Families are more complicated today. There's
Hmm.
step parents, there's blended families, there's same
Yeah.
sex couples,
Yep.
multiple cultures. Dan's story, which I'd love you to share, complicated histories. How does etiquette help us navigate all of this?
Oh goodness. I think in a lot of ways it allows us to navigate it because it says be open and respectful and considerate over the fact that these differences are present. Let's embrace them rather than say, "Oh, they make such a problem." I remember a couple wrote into the podcast years ago. I couldn't tell you what year or what episode, but it was years ago and the issue was one couple's culture really celebrates with alcohol and dancing and the other couple's culture it's
Mm.
forbidden. And how do we do that? We talked about having not two separate receptions for the separate families, but have separate timing for when those things happen. So you do the full meal and the full experience of celebrating together without alcohol and dancing. And then you open it up to alcohol and dancing afterwards so that the families that aren't comfortable with that can exit and leave while still having celebrated with the couples. The families who do love those things can then frankly party the night away and have a good time enjoying those things with the couple. Or maybe you hold them in separate locations and you actually have two weddings and you do keep it very separate. We try to find diplomatic ways of working through this because the idea isn't to shame anyone or tell them that their view or their way of life is bad, but instead to say, how can we make this work? Because at the end of the day, what you both want, your shared goal, is to celebrate this couple coming together and declaring that they're going to live together.
Right. I had a lot of questions about gay couples, a lot
Okay,
of questions about
fire away.
mostly when one family believes in them getting married and celebrating. You've
Hmm.
got grandma who's not happy about this at all. How do you bring the family together to, I don't know if you can ever change their viewpoint, but what are some
Yeah.
things you can say or do to help bring people together to celebrate this couple?
It's really tough. And a lot of it depends on the relationship you have with grandma or the person who disapproves. How close are they? How important are they to you? We've had couples write in saying, I come from a very religious family. They are not accepting of gay marriage in any way, shape, or form, but I am devastated at the idea of them not being at my wedding. And
Oh,
it's heartbreaking because the reality is you might not get to have them at your wedding. The best you can do is to reach out and say, I know this isn't something that you agree with, but I know that it's what's right for me. And I would love to have you there. I would love to have you there because you are my parent. I love and respect you in so many ways. I know this is something we differ on, but I'm hoping you could make that choice and I'll understand if you can't. I think expressing it in that way that doesn't tell someone, I hate you, you're bad, you're awful. And that goes in either direction for doing this. I think a lot of people do find they get to the place where it can happen. And there's a lot of people who find, no, I can't. And I don't want grandma there making people like my friends who are already married be uncomfortable and to have that experience. It's always nice to extend the olive branch with that welcome of please come if you can. If you can find a way to be supportive in this, I would love to have you there. If you can't, I will understand. I think gets you really far in that relationship.
So what I heard in that response,
Mhm.
peppered with compliments. It's
Maybe not
like,
compliments, but with grace, with charity, with an aid of, I'm not going to try to change you, but I
yeah,
value you. And I
yeah,
want you to know that if that can be the main thing that gets us together on this day, I would love for that to be there.
yeah.
But I think you also have to respect the fact that sometimes you can't. And that's a sad thing, but it's a real thing. It's a lot easier to find a place of acceptance with that and to move forward with what you know in your heart you want to do than to fight it constantly or to try to force it when it's not there yet. My hope is always that for the people for whom a parent or a loved one, a grandma can't be there because they disapprove, is that they get to a place later in life where maybe a vow renewal or something is something they could attend.
I love that. And this really plays into biracial couples, religious differences, a
All kinds
lot
of
of things,
things.
all kinds of things. It
Yeah.
plays into the same. I'm going to ask a couple questions from my listeners, and then I want to
Okay.
talk about a few from yours.
Okay.
One said, my fiance and I started planning a small wedding with our goal being about 75 people. Somehow my parents have turned it into a 180-person event with people I've never met. Every
Oh.
time I push back, they say, but we're paying for it.
I think this is one of those hard ones where I kind of wish when the offer to pay for the wedding had happened, we'd had a discussion about what comes along with that money, what expectations come along with that money. I've had couples go both ways with it, where they've instead finally put their foot down and say, listen, we really appreciate that you've offered all of this money, but it's turning into the wedding we didn't want. I need to let you know that because I'm now very uncomfortable about what my wedding day is becoming. I know you wouldn't want that for me, so I want to talk about the fact that I'm starting to feel that way about it. And maybe it's just generational differences, but this is how I feel. And if we can't come to a place where it starts to feel like a more manageable number, whoever, Mark and I are going to need to say thank you so much, but we have to do a really big change in plans.
Yeah,
And
I
I
think
think
that makes a lot of
sometimes when you
sense.
talk with someone like that, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, okay, oh, I'm hearing you now.
Is there ever a chance you can meet at a happy medium? Like they want a wedding for 75, but their parents really want to invite da 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 da. Can we make it 85? Can I
Absolutely.
just do that?
Ask
Sort of,
yourself.
yeah.
Yeah, ask
What can
yourself.
we do to meet their needs as well and still keep our vision?
Denise, I think that's the perfect thing for a couple who's in that exact scenario to ask themselves is, okay, 75 is what I wanted. They are paying for it. And I appreciate that from their perspective, they're really proud of this moment and they're really excited to celebrate us. How about we do just the people of their generation that we know, who we've
Mm-hmm.
met? And I've heard that be a dividing line. So
Mm-hmm.
there are different things you can come up with to meet in the middle. It doesn't always have to be one or the other.
And I think sometimes young adults forget that this is a celebration for the parents as well, as much as
It
it
can
is
be.
their wedding day. Okay, can be.
It can be.
All right, you're much better than me. But I think most parents are pretty excited, and this is a day they've waited for their child to get married, and it's hard for them
Yeah.
to hold back their enthusiasm as much as it's important.
I think so too. I do think for folks who are getting married, especially younger couples who are really leaning on their parents for support for the wedding, do you think it's really nice when they say, is there anyone you'd really love to have here celebrating this moment with you? But at the same time, I really do think it's about the couple. And I think we saw a lot of generational pushback from weddings that didn't feel like the couple was connected to the wedding at all. That's why
Mm-hmm.
we've got the couple in the driver's seat. We are at like the pendulum swings. It's way over here right now in that couple direction.
So I've had several people write they're the groom's parents and they feel invisible. The bride has taken the lead on this. Yes, they've given money or whatever. We can even take money out of the,
Sure.
even sometimes in gay couples, one person takes the lead, the other one doesn't. Anyway,
Absolutely.
not
Yeah.
as communicative with the parents. The parents have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
What is the groom's traditional role, I guess, and
Yeah.
what has changed? You're so much better at saying all this actually than I am.
All the
So
partners and the fiancés,
yeah,
the
yeah.
ease without the
Yeah,
ease.
what can the groom's parents do to feel more involved or ask to be more involved without feeling like they're not biting their tongue or stepping on toes?
I think that, first of all, you can always reach out and offer and say, we are so excited about this wedding and would love to be involved. Is there anything that we could participate in? Or Could I offer to do these things or take care of these tasks? So I think making the offer is one thing to do, especially if there's something that either you have a great connection for or you're really invested in. But also remember that if we're talking about traditional spaces, often the groom's parents hosted the rehearsal dinner, and that's a place where you can make your mark. You just don't want it to be such a mark that it
Mhm.
eclipses the wedding. That's one thing that can happen.
Mhm.
I also think it's important to recognize when people say no, to instead move in the direction of, okay, they don't want our help. How could we just be more informed? And maybe that's a conversation with your son. Maybe that's talking to your son and saying, honey, we don't want to show up and just be surprised at everything. We'd love to be a part of this process, even if it's just hearing from you every other week about what you've planned, what things have moved forward, because we're so excited and we want to elongate the amount of time we get to spend in this joyful, blissful planning period with you.
The other one that I think is really hard. My mother in law at the bridal shower gave me a beautiful diamond necklace. She said, "This is going to look beautiful at your wedding," encouraging me to wear it with my wedding dress. I had planned to wear no neck jewelry. What do I say to my mother in law?
This is one of those positive non-committals where you say, "Oh my gosh, this is such a generous gift. Thank you. Thank you so much." And then you say, "I'm really excited about considering it for the wedding day," or "I'm looking forward to thinking about how this might work on the wedding day." Later, when it's not in front of a bunch of other people, if you've had to open it in front of a bunch of other people, you can say, "Diane, I want to thank you so much. That heirloom piece, it just means the world to me. It's such a generous offering. At the end of the day, I really decided I don't want to wear anything. Would you like to wear it at the wedding on the
Oh my
day?
gosh.
Or is there someone, could Betsy, your, future husband's sister who's in the wedding party, wear it?" My sister had this happen to her. My grandmother loved firsts. This was my mother's mother. She loved firstborns. And my sister got married. I have not been married. And she gave my sister the earrings that my grandfather gave her on her wedding day to wear for her wedding day, I think. And so if not, it was for an anniversary. But they were beautiful, beautiful giant pearls with a little diamond drop, and they were gorgeous. My sister already had all her jewelry picked out, and so she let my grandmother know, "I already have the jewelry I'm going to wear picked out, but I would love to let Lizzie wear these. She would feel so honored." Not only did I feel honored, my sister gave them to me this past year, and I am like beside, I actually almost wore them today, but then I was
Oh
like, I'm
my
going to have
gosh.
headphones on. What am I thinking? But they are a treasure in my world, and I am so grateful to have them. I was so grateful to wear them the day of the wedding, and my grandmother was so happy to see them on one of the two of us. She didn't even realize that could be a thing that would make her happy. And so that was, I thought, really a special way, but to let someone know, I do have something else planned, but this is so beautiful and wonderful. Could we find someone special to wear it? Now, some things might be too extravagant. They really might be just too extravagant to put on a bridesmaid or somebody like that. But you might find a way to wear that to the rehearsal dinner or to some other event so that you can show your mother-in-law that it's being honored. You also do want to clarify whether it's a gift that you get to keep or whether the idea was just that you would wear
Ooh.
this on the day. Because, right, that's a thing. Like,
I never
so
thought of
if
that.
you're making the offer, be very clear whether this is a permanent gift or whether this is a, "I would love to allow you to wear this. I would love to loan this to you for the wedding day." Be very clear about what's going on with this jewelry.
Oh my gosh, I never thought about that. Lizzie, a recent episode in Awesome Etiquette that I listened to has just haunted me about the mother that had a son and a daughter being married the same year, and there was
Yes.
something going on. I think you remember it. I'd
Yeah.
love you to share it because I still have complete empathy for this mother. And I'm always asking my friends, what would you do? So,
Yeah.
can you share it so we could tackle it together here?
This was such a tough one, and I actually loved the feedback we got for it because someone wrote in and told us we were way too nice. That like we needed to tell grandma to get over herself. But the situation was that mom was writing in. She, as you said, she had two kids getting married, a daughter and a son getting married in the same year. Grandma had offered to throw something like a shower or some kind of wedding event for the daughter. But grandma had not offered to throw anything for the son. First of all, the son, I think, had spoken to the mom saying, boy, it feels a little divided here. It doesn't feel very, he didn't use the word fair, but I think that was in essence
Can I interject something?
yeah.
I think the
Do you
bride's
remember
fam
specifically?
well,
Yeah.
no, I just remember the one thing that haunted me was the woman that the son was marrying's family didn't have as much money. So
Right.
they didn't have as many things going on. I felt for this
Yes.
young man too. It did have a little bit to do with money too.
Yes. Basically, the idea was I think at one point he had asked if grandma would contribute to something
Exactly.
like a welcome party, like a
Hmm.
cocktail reception the night before, which sometimes is a full rehearsal dinner, like in placement of a rehearsal dinner. Other times it's just for people who aren't attending the rehearsal dinner. Grandma said no. And mom was fairly feeling like her kids weren't being treated evenly from grandma. Grandma was stated to be a very traditional Southern woman,
Hmm.
was feeling like it wasn't her place to be doing anything for the son. And I actually thought that was a little silly because traditionally, the groom's
Right.
family handles the rehearsal dinner. So grandma definitely could have been contributing to something like that. But I don't know grandma's finances. I am not grandma. The issue for me was that we can only really work with what people are willing to say yes to or provide or offer to contribute. And to tell someone, boy, it's really crummy that you're contributing to a party for my daughter and not a party for my son. He's feeling it, and you should feel bad about that. Generally, we say, no, it's not a good idea in the world of etiquette, good etiquette, to do those things. And so we came down on the side of, we're really sorry to hear this. Aside from letting grandma know that technically the groom's family is responsible, used to be responsible for these things, and see if that moves the needle, there's really nothing you can do here other than to try to still maintain a good relationship with grandma and to kind of let it go. And I think that's a really hard one. I don't love answers like that where all I've got for you is really you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
I just really felt for the son
I
because
do too.
the daughter was having a bridal shower. She was having all this, and there wasn't as much celebration for him. And I
Yeah,
felt like it shouldn't be just because one has more money than the other,
I agree.
and it
Yeah.
just felt so uneven for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So I know I mentioned Dan earlier without saying who Dan is.
Oh, yeah.
So Dan is Lizzie's co-host on Awesome Etiquette. You've mentioned it in the podcast, but not really shared, at least not one of the episodes I've listened to,
Yeah.
the complicated wedding Dan had and how
Yeah.
he made everyone feel part of it. So do you want to share that?
Sure. I love Dan. Dan married a wonderful woman named Pooja Gupta, which was born in Jaipur but moved to the United States when she was 1. So she's very American, but her culture is Indian. Her family is from Albany and Dan is from Waterbury, Vermont. Dan's my cousin as well as my
Right, right,
business
right.
partner for all those who want to know. We're like bestie brother and sister cousins. Like we are very involved in each other's lives. His wife's family really wanted this caterer, this one caterer that does like all of their family events. And it is exceptionally good food. I believe Dan had even already had that food. Dan had always dreamed of getting married at the little church that his family has been a part of his whole life in Waterbury, Vermont. There's stained glass windows and he loves the pastor very much. His mom was really active in that church. He is very active in that church to this day. Pooja now goes to that church regularly. Like, there's a lot of connection to this place. It was looking more and more like there was going to be no way to get this caterer that the Gupta family really wanted to Vermont. At that time, no good options for Indian catering at the wedding. What they ended up doing was finding this incredible, it was a castle in New York, like outside of Albany, New York. I wish I had the name of it for you. And they were able to do the catering that her family wanted. His family, they did a blended ceremony, a Christian Hindu ceremony where his pastor got to come and really be a part of things. There are amazing photos of that. They did a what I thought was a very standard American reception, but it was with all Indian fare and a lot more just get up and hop in line for food when you want, sit at the table that you want kind of casualness to it. Pooja changed out of her langa into a little cute white shift dress for the reception. There were just all these little things about it that were really blended. They were really blended versions of the culture. One of my favorites, though, was Dan's some of his extended family, because this isn't something our Post family does that much, but some of his side of the guest list did the clinking of the glasses to get the
Mm,
couple to
mhm.
kiss. And Pooja's family, the tradition is that you don't do like public displays of affection like that. Instead, what they did is whenever the glasses clinked, they just held their hands together and raised them up in unity. It was really lovely. I just loved seeing all of it. It was a different experience. It was very cool to see. I had never been to a Hindu wedding before, and I did wear a sari. And he got our family to participate in something called the Bharat, which is where it's, if you've ever seen an Indian wedding, there's often this moment where the groom is like riding up on an elephant or a white horse or like something, and there's like this parade of people with the groom coming up to the bride's house. We got my uncle's convertible Beamer, and we got streamers and balloons and all kind. We had music playing. I think it was some kind of funk music playing. He was very proud of his family, his American Christian family, really figuring out how to do a completely new cultural element to a wedding. It was just fun. It was such a beautiful wedding and so much fun. And I thought it tied both cultures together in all the best ways.
So, and I find when I go to weddings like that are
Yeah.
so culturally mixed and done in respectful ways, they're sometimes the very warmest,
Oh, they
and
are.
the
Yeah.
giving on both sides. I'm Greek Orthodox. My daughter married in a non-religious ceremony,
Okay.
but I don't know if you've ever gone to a Greek wedding.
I just
Um,
know about
the
the
crowns,
crowns and the
right?
tie,
Okay,
and then you
and
tie them
right.
together. Yeah,
So during
Stefana, right? That's what
Stefan,
they're
that's pretty
Stefana.
good. How do you
Okay.
know that?
Well, we researched and wrote a wedding etiquette
Oh,
book
okay,
this
that's
year,
right.
so it's
Okay, the
top of
steps.
mind.
I just said to my daughter, Daddy and I have our Stephana. If there's a way it could be included in the non-religious ceremony. So
Mhm.
they had both godparents come up, my daughter's godparents and his godparents. And then they had a prayer from the Book of Common Prayer read. And it was really beautiful. And I felt like it honored my tradition, but didn't take over what she wanted.
I love
Yeah.
that she wanted to include it, that she didn't feel like it was an imposition in some way or like she was caving to ceremonies she didn't want. I think the more we can be inclusive of some small, I want to call them smaller acts, even though they're kind of big deals. I think without getting upset at them, I think the better off we are. If it's just, oh, it's something you do and it's lovely. Or if you want to leave it out, it's something you don't do, you know?
Well, and I had to be prepared to go either way with it.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
either going to be included or not included.
So
All right. So,
that right there is, Denise, a perfect example of parents thinking well about making a suggestion and how it might be received or not. You hit the nail on the head by going into that conversation prepared for the idea to be declined.
it's hard as a parent. I just want to say
I
it's
believe
hard.
it.
You have to move on. There were a lot of things that weren't exactly what I would have done. At the end, I left thinking, I am so glad she didn't listen to me because this was so beautiful and so reflective of them and their relationship. All right.
Yeah.
So, Lizzie, I'm going to go to some of the ones that you've dealt with on your podcast. The
Mhm.
one that hit me the most was a friend who called you, or maybe she wrote to the podcast. So sad that she didn't get any wedding gifts from her close
Oh.
family members. Does she just zip it or what?
This is a great question. And this was actually a friend who talked to me about this directly. She really was sad and she was so conflicted because she felt like the sadness she was feeling made her feel guilty because it was about gifts. And at the
Mm.
same time, she felt genuinely hurt that people like grandparents and aunts and uncles who were invited to the wedding and who attended the wedding didn't give them a wedding gift. And I think it's an important thing to remember that while, of course, the wedding is not about getting gifts, we don't increase our guest list to get more gifts. In fact, as hosts and as honorees, we have to be really careful because weddings are technically the only party we get to it, the event that we get invited to, where if you decline the invitation, you're still obligated to send a gift. At least that's old school. Now, that is old school
I was
etiquette.
going to ask you about
We are
that. Go ahead.
asking questions about that. We are polling audiences to find out if we need to change that rule because it just doesn't get applied anymore ever. But the expectation right now, if you look in most etiquette books, is that you should be getting gifts from all the people that you invited to your wedding. This is especially true for, I would say, American weddings. It might not be as common in something like a really large Pakistani wedding where
Mhm.
the idea is that you're inviting the entire community to come and participate and you're feeding the entire community. It's more about you giving to them than them giving to you. But I think that it's important to recognize that this is a really special moment. And when we don't choose to acknowledge it or commemorate it in that way, which tradition is with a gift, that it can be really hurtful and that it can kind of have that feeling of, did I do something wrong? I know my family and I know they know these traditions and I know they are typically generous and giving people. So the question starts to come back on yourself like, was I a bad bride? Do they not like my husband? What's going on here? The hard part is you can't ask. You can't go to them and say, boy, grandma and grandpa, I just wanted to check and make sure that didn't get lost in the mail. You can't do that. The best you can do is to write them a thank you note for their attendance at the wedding.
Mm.
And if they then have realized they haven't gotten a thank you note for a gift, the best they can do is to write you and say, I just want to check and make sure that gift arrived. Those are the only ways we can really communicate about that politely because it's not polite to ask somebody, why didn't you get me a gift for that? I do
Could
think there are grapevine things that can happen. Like a parent might be like, hey, mom, I just wanted to check in. What did you end up getting Erica for her
right.
wedding? Even that's dicey, but it's like there are closer relationships that I think can handle that. The further you are away from the person, the more that's a giant no-no. The one thing that you also really cannot do is something that I was mortified to read a couple had done. We heard from a couple who was on the receiving end of this. The couple who got married took a snapshot of the gifting advice in the Emily Post wedding etiquette book and emailed it to all the people who didn't get them gifts and said, you're out of line, like you're out of order, like you've got bad etiquette, look at this. And I was like, whoa, A, never wield us as a sword, and B, it's not a demanding thing. It is wonderful if it happens. I like telling this story because I think it's important for people to hear how deeply sad it can be for couples when that part of things, especially among very close family, is just left off.
You brought up gifts, so I want to ask this changed in these wedding lists now.
Yeah.
Pay for our honeymoon, down payment on our house, a new car, we're moving to a new state,
Yes.
pay for our candlelit dinner. A lot of people in my generation are just appalled by this. We're
Yeah.
sort of slowly getting used to it,
Yeah.
but it's been a hard one to swallow.
Yeah.
Where are you on all that?
The one I can't swallow, and I actually feel like I got the smackdown from my great great grandmother from beyond the grave, is the Venmo handle. Just drop money into our account. I was like, how crass is that? At least do a check that or cash that someone can have a card given with, but like, here's my Venmo handle. Just drop it into my account. It just felt so gauche to me. And I then read in the Emily Post 1922 edition's wedding section that there was a part about writing checks and how to do that properly. And then there was a part about or providing your bank account for those who would like to make a direct deposit. And my jaw dropped. It dropped. It absolutely dropped because I was like, that's basically no different than Venmoing someone cash. I was like, Emily accepted it and I don't. I feel like such a slug.
Oh my
But so
gosh.
it's not as bad as I think we all make it out to be. And I also think that it is the Venmo thing for me is still it's too deeply impersonal. We've had people write in saying, "Oh my gosh, just let me do the Venmo thing. It's so easy and it like they can do whatever they want with it." And I'm like, could you try to make it a little special and maybe not be on something that has a public feed even if you're not participating in the public feed? It's the first thing you open when you open your Venmo app. The stuff that I really rail against, the stuff that makes me drop my jaw is not the honeymoon fund or the help us furnish a house in a new state, or we would prefer gift cards because we're military family on the move and we don't know where our next base is going to be. All that makes perfect sense to me. The one I struggle with is, can you help pay for my plastic surgery? That's just too much. It's too personal a thing. That's something you can talk about with very close family and friends, not attached to your wedding event. The other one is, I got questioned by a young reporter years ago now who thought, oh, isn't it so wonderful to pay for someone to ask for IVF? And I was like, okay, so first come marriage, then comes the baby. Let's separate those two, please. I think when we start getting into medical, I start saying, no, 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 separate them out from the event and the need. I don't mind the need being there. I don't mind the idea that people might reach out to family and friends to help them with a need like that. But I don't think it should be something that is an option for your workmates who get invited to this event, or your second cousin who you don't know that well but who's invited, or your parents' work friends or parents' social circle who's invited to this event. Those are the ones that I find get to be a bit over the top for me. But cash and honeymoon funds and pay for this part. For Dan, I got to help contribute to the train trip. He and Pooja went to India for their honeymoon, and I got to help contribute to the train trip between two of the cities that they went to, or a spa day somewhere. Then got to hear about all of it afterwards, but
Right.
it was
and
like really cool.
and I do contribute to those things, but I
Yeah.
guess, and this is the old fashioned part of me comes out. There are so many things in my home that I look at, and I know
Mhm.
that Auntie Bessie gave that to me, or
Yep.
I know that Auntie Diane, my friend Becky, who I'm still friends with from middle school, every time
Yeah.
I pull a steak knife out, I think of Becky.
Becky.
So
Yep.
there's a little bit being missed. I get that, and life has changed. And I
Yes.
wonder so much so that eventually the Venmo tag is going to be just all it is, and we're all going to have to swallow and move on. You don't think
No.
so?
And I'll tell you why, because exactly what you just said. I had a younger bride, she's a little bit younger than me, say she and her husband lived together for like 8 years before they got married. She realized that the registry portion of this event was a chance to get something special, something beyond her everyday. They have all the everyday items. It
Mhm.
was kind of nice to register for some china or some silverware and to think about it in the way that you just said. She said, I remember everyone who gave me something. The gal whose family didn't get her stuff. She had a woman who was a business mentor to her, bought her the entire set of china. That like bought out the entire, and you think about how, and this was nice china. This is
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like
yeah,
slug china.
yeah.
This is nice china, and sent her the entire thing. She was so bowled over. She comes to tears every time she thinks about it. She finally got to build a little kind of section off her kitchen that's going to display the china. She's
Mhm.
going to use that china. And so I like the encouragement from the slightly younger woman who said, I've got all the everyday stuff. Now I want the special stuff. Was really think about it as a chance to do that, because those wedding items, they're going to be special for you for the rest of your life. Maybe
Mhm.
you don't need the popcorn maker or the chip and dip, but get some special items. It's so much fun to step it up a notch and to have those things to be able to deal with them, use them. And I get it. Some
Mhm.
people don't have the storage. Some people aren't fancy people. They never want to do that. The person I'm talking about, not a very fancy person. And she kind of went there to say, this is a special event with some special things attached to it. And that then leads to choosing to create some special moments later on where I use these gifts. It's really great.
Okay, we've been going on longer than I ever thought we would. So I
Don't
need
worry, I
to,
can talk all day.
you can. I want to get to our two takeaways, and I want
Please.
you to speak. Remember, we're talking to parents of the
Yes.
adult kids. So, two takeaways you hope parents will take away from this podcast.
Number one is to have patience and flexibility when talking with your kids who are getting married. That really taking a minute to consider the generational differences, taking a minute to expand the way you did in your wonderful example of your daughter's wedding in the Stefana, really taking the time to breathe and think before you have conversations and to not just react in the moment. Then the second takeaway is advice that I love giving to everybody. It's that the best skills that we can hone are to be aware of others, to listen carefully, not just think about what we're going to say, but to listen to what's being said to us, and to have the ability to issue a really good apology. it can do wonders to getting you literally, in some cases, down that aisle.
Thank you, Lizzie Post. I see why your podcast is so successful and everything you're doing. I respect you so much, and Dan too. So send him my best, and thank you for being with us.
Denise, thank you so much. This has been a joy, and I hope your listeners got something out of it, and I hope they'll come check out Awesome Etiquette.
Oh, they will. They will. So that's a wrap. What an honor it was to speak with Lizzie. She really has a way with words. If we all could react with her calmness and her sensibility, it would be a much kinder world. I hope all of you will try to listen to Awesome Etiquette. I think you will enjoy Lizzie and her cousin Dad so much as they discuss etiquette and many dilemmas that we face today. Don't forget our listener line at 719-347-1106 to share your ideas, thoughts, and questions, or email us at biteyourtonguepodcast@gmail.com. If you would take a minute and support us, visit our website at biteyourtonguepodcast.com. Click the Support Us tab. Please know we greatly appreciate it. A huge thank you to Connie Gorant-Fisher, our audio engineer. Remember, as Lizzie said, take time to think before you speak, whatever's going on in your life. And sometimes you may have to bite your tongue.